All right. Let me just do a quick recap for us, and then we'll pick it up from where we left off. Okay, so here we go. So last week, what did we do? Last week, we basically did one major thing alone, which was for me to show you 1.25 group sessions in how we can be applying the 15 group counseling responses in real life group counseling sessions. That's what we did. You can remember, you can recall, basically we saw a group of women, in particular mothers, who came together, talking initially about what? Talking initially about how to make a transition from being parents to teenagers. Okay. Parents towards teenagers to parents towards teenagers to parents towards young adults, isn't it? So that was how it began. But slowly but surely, what happens? The sharing became deeper and deeper and deeper, right? About one particular member, right? Expressing Dorothy, expressing about how her experience was like being a stepmother, and later on, right? Other members begin to chip in to also share their own experiences in a deeper way as well. And after that, what did we do? After that, we began to look into session 2 of the women's group. You can remember where we left off was when Barbara began to be very open to share with the group about how angry she felt when she left the first session, right? And after that, the group counselor basically what? Wanted Barbara to stay with the anger, right? So that she can begin to own it a bit more. And that began to trigger Barbara to share the secondary feeling about feeling angry, which was the feeling of shame. And that was where we stopped as of last week's lesson, basically. Okay, any quick questions for me before I get rolling for tonight? Okay, good. So let me give you an overview about how I'll be spending our lecture number 6 tonight. Okay, well, very fast, 6 already. Now, in a moment, I want to show you a bit more of session 2 of the women's group. Not the whole thing, but I'll just show you a little bit more of that. After that, I want to begin to share with you some sharing about how should you go about preparing for your mock-up group counseling session. So I'm sure most of the groups you are thinking about it. So I'll share with you at length how should you be preparing for that and stuff like that. So I'll talk about that. After that, I want to begin to cover with you the next segment of our time together. We're going to be moving on to look at this particular topic called stages of group development. So tonight, I want to begin by talking about what we call the pre-group stage, followed by hopefully some aspects of the initial stage before we call it a night tonight. So that's agak-agak. I'll be spending our lecture number 6 tonight. Okay, all right. Okay, without further ado, let's go straight down the work, shall we? Okay, so if you can, I'd like you to open up the transcript. It's transcript 2. For those of you who were here last week, let me show you where we are. Okay, so here we go. Give me a second while I shift all your videos to my other screen. Okay, good. Now I can see all of you clearly. Okay. So, if you can, I'd like you to open up this particular PDF file called transcript 2. Okay. Now you're wondering where we are. Well, we're basically here. We're at 1B25. (1B25), where Barbara mentioned the secondary feeling about feeling angry, which is shame. Got it? So that was where we are as of last week's lecture. Okay. All right. All there already? All located your transcript? All there? Steady, Okay, so here we go. Okay, Liz, I'm going to be playing a video, so it's going to be copyrighted. So I need you to pause the recording for me. Thanks, Liz. Now, what did the counselor say? She said, I'm confused because you did get angry, you did show some anger, it was momentarily, it was fleeting, but you had it, it was there, so you can. What's happening here? Now, just before the group counselor said what she said, right? What did Barbara say? If you look at 1B41, what did Barbara say? I know. I don't know how to do it. My friends, I don't know how to do it. The it refers to what? I don't know how to do it. The it refers to what? I don't know how to do it. The it refers to what?
Hi,
Angry.
Mr. Lawrence. I think it means anger. Getting
Ah,
angry.
that's right. Spot on, Judy. Yes, you're right. So I don't know how to do it. The it refers to I don't know how to be angry. Got it? I don't know how to be angry. So after all that's been done so far, right? Our dear Barbara is still very adamant. No? Adamant about what? She's still very adamant that, wow, I cannot be angry. But right from the get-go, in the second session, she said already, after I left the first session, I became angry. Because I came to the group, alamak, the group never addressed my issue. I got angry. Oh, she really said in the beginning that she got angry. But now she said, I cannot get angry. Aiyo. So you can imagine, right? The group counselor by now, she's probably really confused, isn't it? That's why at 1B42A, what did she say? She said, I'm confused. What's she confused about? She's confused about there seems to be what? A discrepancy, isn't it? On the one hand, Barbara said she got angry after leaving the first session. But yet, right now, she said, I don't know how to be angry. Obviously, there's a what? A discrepancy between what Barbara is saying about her ability to be angry. Can you all follow me so far, my friends? Okay, I understand where I'm going. So I really give you a hint, right? So what do you think is the technique at 1B42A? Technique?
Mr. Lawrence, I think first the counselor was acknowledging Barbara's feeling. And after that, she was challenging her as his individual experience.
That's right. So that one, Judy, you're right. That one is under intent. I'm asking about the technique first.
Is it noting a discrepancy?
That's right. It's noting a discrepancy. Got it? So the technique is noting a discrepancy. Thanks, Steph. The intent is what Trudy just said. It's about acknowledging, but more importantly, I think the intent is to challenge Barbara again. Challenge her about what? Challenge her to see that, hello, you can really be angry, man. You have the ability to be angry. And you did get angry after you left the first session. Can you follow me, my friends? So technique, no discrepancy, intent, to challenge. The who leh? How about the who? The who?
Barbara.
Barbara, individual lah. Correct or not? Individual lah. Then, the what? Feelings. Nothing more than feelings. Feelings lah. Correct or not? Got it? So there we have it. The technique, the intent, the who, as well as the what. Okay? Then after that, what did counselor do? Counselor very solid, right? Then she asked, where is the rest of the group now? Steady, right? That's why I keep saying to you that to be a good group counselor, wow, we have to be able to zoom in, zoom out, isn't it? What's group counselor? No. If she were to continue to zoom in on Barbara, alamak, all the other group members probably will get lost, isn't it? So she's always very mindful about, I zoom in on Barbara, at the same time, I want to zoom out to ensure that the rest of the group, they are still connected with this team about being angry. Okay, got it? Good. Let's continue. Now, there's a bit more juicy stuff coming up. To me, it's juicy. Maybe you don't find it juicy. A rather silent member called Jean now has the courage to what? To come forth and say, oh, I'm angry at myself, but more than that, I'm angry at you, Barbara, for bringing this up. Notice? So guess what? More and more members are becoming open to share more intimately about these negative feelings. So if I were to be a group counselor, I know I'm heading somewhere good for sure. Got it? Oh, can? See what Barbara's reply. Now we just discovered that Barbara was a stunned woman. Why do I say that? Wow. For someone who's able to jump out of a moving car, it's really something, isn't it? She jumped out of it because she's angry. So guess what? Barbara has the ability to be angry, no doubt about it. But what makes her find it so hard to admit it is because of this particular history in her life. When she thinks about, alamak, I broke a shower screen before when I'm angry. Wow, I jumped out of a car when I was angry. Ayo, so shameful. Ayo, so shameful. Ayo, so shameful. What happens? The shame that she feels when she feels angry stops her from owning up that she can be angry at some other people other than herself. Can you all follow me so far, my friends? Got it? Because these two incidences, jumping out of a moving car, breaking the shower screen, to Barbara is what? To her, I have lost control when I feel angry. That's shameful. Right? So I better not ever be angry at other people in case it escalates to something very big, basically. That's why Barbara finds it so hard to acknowledge that she's able to feel angry at other people. Got it? So, group counselor, right, has to thank who? Linda last week, first session, right, she has to thank who? V, isn't it? V was the group counselor, very solid. Today, this session, group counselor should split her fees with Linda. Because Linda did a fabulous job, right? She came in, and she's able to give Barbara the confidence to even mention these two shameful incidences. That's pretty cool, man, in my opinion. So sometimes that's what we do. We can only pray and hope that there's some group member that can be so solid in connecting with another group member that their responses might be able to draw out this other group member to share more. And that is something which it can never happen in the individual session. Because in individual session, it's only me and the client. So if I foul up, nothing else will happen. But in the group, even if I foul up, there's still a good chance that another group member might come in to rescue me in some ways. So in this case, Linda was the rescuer. First session, it was V who was the rescuer for the group counselor. That's why sometimes group counseling, that is the benefit of it. Sometimes good things may come out of it, even though it appears to be bleak, generally. Okay? Good. Continue for one more. I just want to let you hear one more thing. Then we 49A again, where there are blanks there. Okay? Now, take a look at 1B 49A. Counselor said, I wonder if others struggle with that. Now, my friends, first and foremost, let's clarify. What does the that refers to?
Anger.
I wonder. Sorry, yes.
Anger, Mr. Lawrence.
Anger. Okay. Okay, Ken. Yeah, you're right. It's anger, Mira. Can it be more specific?
In terms of technique, is it?
No. In terms of, okay, you see, at 1B48, Barbara just told all of us about the two incidences where she lost it, where she felt angry at her husband, isn't it? After that, at 1B49A, counselor said, oh, I wonder if others struggle with that. So the that confirm is about anger but what in particular about anger?
The losing control of the anger.
Spot on, Stephanie, you got it. So I say again, so at 1B49, at 1B48, Barbara just said, there were two incidences where I lost it. Right? I did something so stupid when I was so angry at my husband, isn't it? That was a very vulnerable sharing, isn't it? For someone like Barbara to own up, walao, I broke the shower screen. I jumped out of a moving car. Oh, yo. Left, it's like, if she were to say more, it's like, oh, you're so shameful. What did counselor do? Counselor knew that Barbara was being very vulnerable. What did she do? One way to make Barbara feel less embarrassed is to come in to ask about the rest, isn't it? So she asked, beautifully done. Oh, I wonder whether others struggle with that. What's happening here? The group counselor was trying to normalize. So Barbara, don't think that you're the only one. No? All of us probably have our own stories about all the things that we do, when we lose our cool at someone else. So don't think you're the only one. So very nice. I felt this intervention was very, very well done. So it really makes Barbara feel that she's not the only one. So what's the technique? What do you think is the technique here? I wonder if others struggle with that. What's the technique?
Playing a hunch.
Yeah, it could be being a hunch. It could be that because
Mr. Lawrence,
counselor is assuming, counselor is having this view that there are also other people in the group who might have experienced similar experience as Barbara. Yeah, so you're right. So the technique here could be playing a hunch. It could be. What else?
Noting a connection.
Sorry?
Noting a connection.
Very good. That could be also possible. Right? But once again, right? Noting a connection probably came from the hunch part. So if I were to become counselor, I probably have a hunch. Besides Barbara, there are probably other group members who are also having similar experiences. So I want to get to the connection. I want to get to the connection bit generally. Yeah, so you're right. So these two could be possible, right? So playing a hunch or noting a connection. These two could be possible. That's
Mr.
really.
Lawrence, I think the counselor is trying to directing. Like
correct.
counselor is trying to zone the counselor is trying to zone out and then trying to direct the question to others so that others can also share their incidents.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Definitely there's some directing here, but I suppose, usually when we use directing, right, we are a bit more specific than this, basically. Okay, yeah. So you're right. Counselor is trying to direct traffic a little bit, she is. But I suppose it may not be purely directing because it still appears to be a bit fuzzy. So counselor is still appearing to be a bit tentative. That's what she said, I wonder whether other people struggle with that. So she's still quite tentative, basically. Right? That's why she's hoping that if her hunch is correct, other group members may come in to also share. Yeah, I also got that, whatever. So she's really letting her hunch carry this particular intervention forward, basically. Okay? So well done. Now, sadly, I won't say sadly, I felt that with this schoolwork that was being done, right, counselor could have stayed on a bit longer. Come, let's talk about it. Now, 1B49B, what did the counselor do? So counselor, after making that statement, right, she observed some people were nodding their heads. Right now, she said, right, some are nodding your heads. Now, what technique is this? This technique is giving feedback. Right, so some are nodding your heads. What technique? Giving feedback. Remember what I taught you? Giving feedback is where the group counselor want to call out, want to acknowledge certain non-verbal behavior from either individual member, subgroup member, or the entire group. So counselor said, some are nodding your heads. Technique, giving feedback. The intent, to acknowledge. The whole subgroup was some. The what? Behavior. So I say again, technique, giving feedback. Intent, to acknowledge. The whole subgroup. The what? Behavior. Now, after the group counselor did this part so well, right? I was hoping that she would take it even further. What do I mean? Instead of asking the question at 1B49C, I was hoping so dearly that the counselor can ask those who nodded their heads to share more. Isn't it? It's like macam you bring the horse to the lake, no, to drink water, no. You are this close, no, of getting the horse to drink the water from the lake. Then you let it go. So I felt, it was a missed opportunity for me. Are you getting my drift? You look very confused, right? So she's this close, no, in getting the other people who nodded their head to share more. And if they do share more, guess what? Wow, how powerful that would be for Barbara to hear it. Because Barbara keeps saying, so shameful, no, it's so shameful to feel angry. But I believe after she hears what the other group members share, maybe she can begin to see that, hey, I always thought it was shameful, but maybe not lah. After hearing all my buddies here share, walao, maybe not that shameful after all. So the impact will probably be way greater than this. Got it? So I just felt it was a missed opportunity for me. If I were to be, but it's always easy to be a critic now. If I'm in the hot seat, I probably won't fare any better as well, I suppose. Okay, good. Now, let's go back. Instead of the group counselor doing what I suggested, what did she do? She asked a question, right? So, Barbara, how are you feeling sharing all these with the group today? Now, this is still a relevant question. Why do you think the group counselor asked Barbara this question? Why? What's the intention? Why? Why does the group counselor wanted to ask Barbara this particular question for? Why?
Maybe the counselor wants Barbara to open up more. Like
Not more? Yes, that's very good. Yeah. Okay, let me ask a different way. What do you think the group counselor might be concerned about? That's why she asked Barbara this particular question.
That if she's feeling basically safe in the group.
That's right. Spot on. Steph, very sharp. My friends, context again. Barbara mentioned earlier on, it's shameful to feel angry. Then she took the leap of faith to share these two incidences. After that, even though some members nodded, but no one shared more. So if I were to be Barbara, right, I may start to feel embarrassed. Wouldn't you think so? I got a history of feeling shameful about feeling angry. Then I go and share these two incidences. Busybody, man, go and share. Then no one else share. Guess what? If I were to be Barbara, I may feel, so shameful. I just shared the two incidences. No one else in the group shared. No, I'm so shameful. She might have felt that way, isn't it? So group counselor probably detected that. So better check in to see whether, right, is Barbara feeling okay after sharing so much with the group? Can you all follow me so far? Can you see where I'm going with this? So if Barbara didn't say what she said at 1B50, right? Let's say now we turn the script around, okay? Barbara 150, she said very nicely, I feel pretty good thank God right? So group counselor probably felt relief relief. Barbara at least felt good. But I can almost imagine, right? Barbara probably didn't say that. Probably Barbara might say, wow, I actually felt very embarrassed, about saying what I just said. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have been so open to share what happened to me back then. I shouldn't have. Barbara could have said that. And then what will happen? If I'm a good counselor, this is where I have to backpedal. Backpedal to what? So of course I first acknowledge, so Barbara, you feel regretful in sharing the two incidences just now. So I'll just do that. Then I will say, well, going back to the earlier part, where some of you nodded your heads just now, I wonder, could I invite some of you to share more about how you struggle to manage your anger. So at the backpedal lah. So that as I backpedal, I hope the normalizing effect is not too late for Barbara. Can you all follow me, my friends? Can you understand where I'm going? Okay? So it's so important, isn't it? Right? That's why it's so important for us, good counselor, right, to be very mindful about how things are going. Sometimes we have to be more mindful about individual member. In this case, Barbara. Sometimes it's about us worrying more about subgroup or entire group. Yeah, but that's what we are called to do. We have to be able to foresee certain things and to deal with it as it comes along. Very easy. And of course, after that, it became quite good. Where, Lynn came in, Now, take a look at, can I just invite you to read through 1B52 on Lynn? Lynn's reply. Read through that on your own. 1B52. Now, what seems to be the main theme at 1B52 by Lynn? She mentioned what? That she felt a lot more connected this time around, right? Are we all there? My friends, how can the group counselor leverage on Lynn's sharing? What is Lynn hinting at 1B52? What is Lynn hinting at 1B52?
That she
The fact
feel-
that she's...
Oh,
Sorry?
okay.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Mr. Lawrence. Go ahead.
Sorry, go for it. Go for it. What is she hinting?
That she feel belong to the group. Finally,
Correct.
she don't feel lonely.
That's right. That's right. And for her to say that, right, what is she implying? For her to say, oh, this time around, I feel so connected, wow, unlike the first session. What is she implying? Now, she's probably implying that why she felt so connected with the group is because of the theme of anger. Can you follow me? So what will I do? So after Lynn shared, I will follow through. Oh, Lynn, you mentioned that you feel so much more connected with the group today. Oh, I wonder, what is it that you're feeling so connected with? I'll go in with that. I'm pretty sure Lynn will say, wow, this topic about anger, wow, losing anger, wow, I feel very connected. 好死了啦, good. Tell me more. Guess what? As Lynn share more, Barbara benefits. The rest of the group benefits as well. Can you all follow me, my friends? So very important. In group counseling, whenever any member say to us, I feel connected, I will go after it, man. Because that is another sign that the group is going somewhere. My friends, do you know how hard it is to connect a group together? You'll soon discover when you join me in the field. It's so difficult. And for any group member to declare, wow, I feel so connected, walao, it's like, I don't know how to put it, but it's really something that we yearn for in the way that we do things. So I want to go after it. I want to make sure that more time is spent really getting Lynn to share more about that. So that'll probably be what I'll do as well. Okay, pause a while. Any questions for me about this part of the group session?
Lawrence.
Yes, go for it.
Okay. Going back, sorry, I'm backtracing back to 1B49A. The part where he says the counselor mentioned that I wonder if others struggle with that. Is it possible that he's using the technique of the response of questioning, like
Yes,
directing
sure,
the questioning to the rest?
Yes,
And
possible. I
Yeah.
suppose, right, that will be a generic technique. But I feel that noting a connection, playing a hunch, can also take the form of questioning as well.
Mm.
So I guess if you ask me, right, I would say that
Mm.
playing a hunch, noting a connection is probably the primary technique that came in the form of questioning, basically.
Okay.
That's right, you got it.
So
Because
that
I can play a hunch, right, by making a statement. I can also play a hunch by asking a question. I can do that. Same thing. I can note a connection by making a statement, or I can note a connection by asking a question as well. So I guess it's really the form that it takes over here for me.
okay. And then the intent will be to explore the group's reaction.
I think, yeah, I guess not just to explore, but to challenge those who feel the same way to come out to share, basically.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Thank you.
That'll be more. No problem.
Hi,
Yes,
Mr.
Rebecca, go for it.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a theory. I mean, I appreciated the fact that Lynn actually kept her sentence short. Maybe because she felt that if she goes on again and again like the last time, Barbara would be even more angry because second time.
Maybe.
So-
That's true.
so-
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that happens again, right, and then another member doesn't want to share as much because she's scared of offending another person. So how does the counselor can help facilitate?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question. I guess a few things I will do. First, if I sense it right in the group, I may want to make it known. How? Make it known by calling it out. So how? Playing a hunch. Yeah. So I says, oh, I sense that some of you in the group want to share more, but you have some reservations about how the other group members might respond if you do share more. What am I doing? I'm playing a hunch, am I not? I can guarantee you, if I say this in this way, right, some will not. Maybe Lynn will not frantically. What will I do? I will go for it. Oh, so Lynn, I noticed you nodding frantically. Right. Could you share with us your reservation about sharing more? Notice, right? I never asked Lynn to share about what she wants to share. I say, share about your reservation of sharing more. Because my gut tells me the reservation that Lynn feels is probably also a reservation that other members feel. So once again, I'm going after what? A connection here. Isn't it? That's why the playing of a hunch is a very helpful thing that we can do. But it requires a lot of good observational work on the counselor's end. Because I'm a lousy observer, right? I probably won't have much hunches. Or if I do have hunches, right, they're probably inaccurate in the first place, isn't it? So that's why to have a good hunch, it's important that the good counselor has to be a good observer to begin with. So that's important.
Okay,
Rebecca,
thank
so I
you.
hope I sort of answered that question a bit. Good.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks. Come here. Good. Other questions about this, Edmund? Judith? I thought I saw your hand, Judith. Things to ask me, Judith? Nope. Okay, I thought you had something to ask me. Sure. Okay, no, okay. I'm afraid that's all the time that I have to play this video and this point. Okay. So I trust that in your own time, you can read through the rest of the transcript. It's pretty good. Yeah. At the tail end, you will see Linda coming in again to share about how she can help the group to confront anger and whatever not. So I'll leave it to you to read on your own time as well. Okay. All right.
Sorry, Mr. Lam.
Yes,
Sorry.
go for it. Yeah, Steph, go for it.
One question. So I noticed from the videos, right? They all started out, it's basically a group of mothers transitioning into like a new phase.
Yes.
And then
you're
now
right.
he's talking about anger and how they manage the anger and the shame and everything else.
Yes, you're right.
Question would be like, how, as a counselor, how far do you let them explore this type of conversations and then also bring back to the whole point of them being together because of another transition? Like how
Good
far
question. Good
go
question. Good question.
into these things?
Good question. Now, I suppose a few things I will do. First, right, we're still not very sure whether this particular group, is it a counseling group or is it a support group? My hunch tells me, right, this particular group is probably more of a support group rather than a counseling group. Okay, so they're coming together as mothers lah, supporting one another through the parenting journey lah. Parenting teenagers, now become a young adult. So if the group is a support group, then for me as a group counselor, I will tend to give the group more bandwidth lah. That means I tend to go along more with them based on where they want me to go with them, basically. But if the group is a counseling group, I would tend to want to bring the group back to the objective of why we are gathering together. So that will be where I will have a shorter leash on going with where they want to go. I want to pull them back to the main objective of why we are gathering together is really for this particular purpose and all that. So I guess it very much depends on what sort of group this is. Then that will influence how much I will go with the group and to pull them back after that. Oh, that's one. Steph, very good question you asked. Second comment is this. I guess for me as a group counselor, right, I always want to find a way back. What do I mean? So far, the group members talk about anger, isn't it? I can always make a connection back to, oh, so since we are talking about anger, ladies, I wonder, how can this particular topic about anger be somehow connected to what we spoke about last week? About how we are transiting from being parents of teenager children to now being parents of young adults. I wonder how is this theme of anger connected to why are we gathered together for? Notice, there's always a way for me to bring it back. In fact, you can remember, right? First session, what happened? Linda was talking about guilt, isn't it? She said, guilt, mothers, we feel a lot of guilt, isn't it? Because, society seems to think that, we can control the world. We can prevent harm from happening to our children. To me, when Linda shared that, right, I could even sense that there's some anger. Because for the society to demand that mothers have this kind of power, if I were to be a mother, I'll feel so angry. So I could even make that link back. Oh, so ladies, I wonder, even as we're talking about anger right now, could the connection be that as mothers, we too sometimes struggle with controlling anger in parenting our children, or whatever. So I could link that back as well. Right? So that's what I probably will do. Especially if the group is a counseling group, per se. So that'll be what I'll do. Good question, Steph. Very good question. Nice. All right. Other questions for me? Yes, Angel. I see your finger. Yes. I see your finger before I hear your voice. It's fine. Come.
Lawrence, I wanted to ask in a group, right? Sometimes maybe two people don't get along and they disagree a lot.
Sure.
How does a counselor cope with that, or try? Because I'm sure people don't get into each other's views.
Yes. Right. Yeah, right. I guess here comes, I'll talk more later on under the stages, in particular the transition stage. I will talk more about that, but let me just give an appetizer here to Angel. I guess for me is this, as long as the interaction between the two members is not becoming aggressive, I'm okay with that. In fact, just now you notice, right, in the session, Jean actually mentioned to Barbara that she's not happy she's angry with Barbara. That's very confrontational, isn't it? But the group counsel let it be, because the way Jean expressed her anger at Barbara was still considered very civilized. It was still considered to be rather mild. Same thing. When Sue Hamtam group counselor, I'm angry at you, for pushing Barbara again and again and again. Once again, confrontational. But the way Sue did it was very respectful. It was very amicable. So I guess for us, right, group counselors is, as long as the interaction isn't getting personal, isn't getting toxic, we tend to let it go. Because we want to set the tone that we are not here to only have one view. We are here to be inclusive of multiple views. In fact, right, if you go back to the transcript again, notice, right, there's this part, if I may bring you back to page, where is it? The part when Lynn and Sue disagree. Ah, correct. If you go back to look at the 1B37, Sue just told the counselor off. I'm angry at you because you keep pushing Barbara again and again and again and again. Then Lynn came in to say, I don't want Barbara to lose her anger. My friends, what do you get there? Notice that for this instance, Sue and Lynn have different opinion, isn't it? Sue wanted the counselor to stop pushing Barbara to be in touch with her anger. But Lynn said, I don't want. I want Barbara to continue to feel her anger. I want her to do that. So what do you have? We have two group members having different views. And notice, group counselor let it be. Because in a group setting, we always want to be embracing differences, rather than to work towards only having one response at all times. But not easy, Angel. So the key thing here is about we have to be responsible to take the temperature of the group. So if it becomes really very, very spicy, it becomes really, really very hot, we have to do something. But if the atmosphere is still amicable, if the atmosphere is still respectful, then we tend to let it go, usually.
Thank you, Lawrence.
No problem. Thanks. But I'll share more when we get to the transitional stage. I'll share. All right. Other final questions about this segment or even the last week's segment? Sure. No, okay. So now I'm going to talk to you a bit more about your mock-up group counseling session. How to prepare for that. Can? Okay, good. Okay, so come, let's do it together. Let me open up my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what I'm showing now on the screen is basically what you already have. Guidelines for group assignment. So now I want to focus only on this part. This part. Highlight for you. The mock-up group counseling session. So very important. Let me recap for you again. What's expected? So for the group project, like I said, there are three components which you need to do as a group. One will be the group project. Have to submit the written report. The second will be to have a presentation about the project. And the third is where you have to do a mock-up group counseling session. So now let me talk a bit more about what are the requirements for the mock-up group counseling session. So first and foremost, right, as you can see here. So here. Each group has to select one group counselor from your group. In other words, within your group, one of you will have to play the group counselor role, while the rest of you will play the group member role. Got it? So that is the first thing you have to figure it out now. So you can draw lots, whatever. But the idea here is one of you, group counselor, while the rest will be the group members. That's the first thing to remember. Second thing to remember is this. Now, this part. Once you have decided on the roles, you have to now begin to plan out your transcript. So how do you plan out your transcript? You have to ask yourself, okay, out of the 15 group counseling techniques that I shared with you, which are the ones that you want to showcase in your mock-up group counseling session? My friends, I'm realistic. I'm not expecting you to showcase all 15. I'm not. Okay, I am leaving it to you to showcase which of the 15 you want to showcase in your short group counseling session. But I only have one requirement, which is as you showcase the group counseling responses, the techniques need to cut across all the categories. So let me recap again for you. So what are the categories again? First category is the essential category, where it includes attending, opening, closing, isn't it? Then we have the passive category, which include techniques like paraphrasing, empathizing, giving feedback. Then we have the active category. Includes things like questioning, clarifying, and directing. Then we have the fourth, interpretive, where we have all the whole gang reframing, playing a hunch, noting a theme, noting a connection, noting a discrepancy, all that, isn't it? Reframing, I said that already. Finally, we have the fifth, discretionary, where use of silence and self-disclosure falls under the discretionary category. So, very important, I'm not looking to you to showcase all the 15. I'm not, but whatever that you showcase, it has to be representative of all the 5. In other words, right, for each category, there should at least be one technique that's being showcased in your mock-up group counseling session. Am I making sense to you, my friends? All okay? So that is something that you need to think about. Okay? Good. Now, second thing. Once you have decided agak-agak what are the techniques to showcase, you have to now plan the transcript. My friends, the transcript, right, needs to be directly related to your group project. What do I mean? Come, let me give you an example. Let me use the whiteboard. Okay. Example. Example. Let's say, okay, my group project topic is this. Let's say, effectiveness of group counseling. Let's say, in helping teenagers in anger management. Let's say, this is my good topic. Okay. Very important. In your transcript, the dialogue between the group counselor and all the group members needs to revolve around the topic of anger management. Can you all follow me, my friends? So I say again, as you plan out the transcript, right, the content, the meat of the transcript needs to revolve around your research project. So for my case, since I'm researching on effectiveness of group counseling in helping teenagers to manage anger, my mock-up session has to be revolving around the topic of the group members struggling with managing anger. So you have to plan your transcript accordingly. And along the way, how can you begin to apply the group counseling responses inside your transcript? Got it? So that will be your challenge. Okay. One more thing, right? As you plan out the transcript, make sure you cater in the idea of when to zoom in and when to zoom out. When to zoom in and when to zoom out. The one, very important. Very important. Good. Haven't finished yet. Let me continue. Now, you're probably going to ask me, so Lawrence, how long are you expecting the group session to be? As you can see here in your handout, I'm expecting a duration of about 10 to 15 minutes for your mock-up group counseling session. Got it? So that will be the target amount of time you should be thinking about as you plan out the transcript. 10 to 15 minutes. That's all I'm looking at, basically. Now, the way you present your transcript, you can use the transcript that I have uploaded for you as a format. All blur, right? Come, let me show you. Back here again. Here. So basically, right, you can follow this particular format. Table form. So you can have over here. Let me scroll it up for you. Yeah. So first column, right? First column, it can be what we call serial number. Or you prefer to call it reference number, also can, up to you. Then the second column is basically who is speaking. So either, so the second column is who is speaking. So either group counselor, member A, member B, member C, member D. I leave it up to you. Third column is where that is the actual dialogue that takes place in the session, basically. So this will be a nice format for you to use as you begin to present your transcript. Making sense so far? Now, of course, if I were to be you, right, it will be good for every group to be giving names to your group members. Got it? So you can be using your own name. If you want to use studio name, I leave it up to you. No problem. No? But the key thing is every member of the group should at least have a name so that in your transcript, you'll become clearer as well. Okay, so then one more thing to remember. Now, just like the transcript here, very important, Yeah, let me scroll it down for you. Whenever it is the group counselor speaking, whatever, right? In the transcript, you need to include this line. Meaning, besides typing out, right, what the group counselor would say, you also have to include one line that will explain, based on what group counselor say, what technique is that? What intention does it serve? The who and the what. Got it? Sometimes you may also have to include the when and the where as well. But the key 4 items are the technique, the intent, the who, and the what. These are the 4 compulsory items that needs to be in the line. If you want to, you can also include the when as well as the where if you want to. But the first 4 is the most important items that I need you to put in your transcript for every counselor's response. That's important.
Mr. Lawrence. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, for this dialogue, it's like below that's written allowing silence to acknowledge group experience. Then when we write our transcript, do we have to write this way or do we use the square, circle, triangle symbol? Which one is it?
No need to so no need to use square, circle, triangle. No need to.
No.
So the idea so you can type it like that based on that.
Oh, okay. So I can type it in this sentence.
So the whole idea is so first item is technique Second item will be intent then the who and the what.
Okay, so don't need to use the symbols.
No need to.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, I hope I'm clear. Okay, let me pause. Invite questions for me. Questions for me about the mock-up group counseling session. Before I make one more comment.
So Mr. Lawrence, just
yes, go for it.
Confirm the format for this, right? It's recommended that we follow a table, but it doesn't have to be exactly like what you're saying. Just as long as it showcases the speaker, the dialogue, and the techniques in some table form or somewhere should be clear enough.
It'll be good. Yeah, I guess having a serial number will be helpful because on the day of the presentation, if I need to make a comment, I could say, okay, let's all focus on serial number, for example, 1A15, for example. So that will help them. to make the whole feedback giving to be more efficient, if you ask me. Yeah. So I guess if you ask me, right, I think following the 3 columns will be helpful. So serial number, then followed by the who is speaking, then followed by the actual dialogue. In my opinion, that will probably be helpful.
And one more question. So when we are doing this script, transcript and everything else, then when we're doing the presentation, if we don't follow word for word, but the gist of it is okay, right?
That's fine. That's okay. Yeah, that's right. So I guess, right, here comes the execution. On the day when you're doing the mock-up session, right, you are more than welcome to read from the script. No problem. You can do that. Yeah. So because, right, number 1 is Zoom. Right. So number 2, I mean, it's just 10 minutes. So I will allow you to be reading from the script. No problem. You can do that. So I will not be critiquing on the way you read. I'll be critiquing more on how you are applying the 15 responses in the context of your group project. So that will be what I'm looking up for, basically. So it'll not be so much about, oh, are you reading it clear? Not really that. So it's more about your application of your responses. I'm looking more at generally.
But what about, would you also be criticized, or will you be also judging on the dialogue? Besides the counselor's responses that we have to put in, but let's say the dialogue between the participants, will you also be judging?
Sure. Okay, good question. Okay, I was going to say this. Now, the whole idea here is, okay, let me try to put it clearly. Now that you have a copy of the 2 women's group transcript, right, it's quite tempting, in my use of word, it's quite tempting, if I were to be in your shoes, right, to try and role model your transcript to what you saw in the women's group, isn't it? So now comes the key, Now, if I were to be you, try to make sure that your own group transcript does not resemble the transcript that you read about the women's group. Am I making sense? So if your transcript resembles very closely to the women's group transcript, you probably wouldn't fare that well. Let me be very honest with you. Because the whole idea here is I want you to be learning as you plan out the transcript. Got it? So that's the key. So going back to Seth's question, I guess if you ask me, right, of course I'll be looking at the dialogue, but I'm looking mainly at the counselor's response in relation to what is happening in the group at the moment. So I guess that will be where I'll be looking at all parties, basically. So I hope it's clear.
Lawrence, I just want to ask.
Yes, Judith.
If like you're given 10 to 15 minutes to do
the
whole script, do we have to close the session in 10 to 15 minutes in that sense?
No need to. So you can literally leave it dangling. No problem. You can do that.
Okay, thank
you could even start midway. You could even say, oh, we are talking about whatever. So I guess your opening and closing, right, need not have to be trim and proper. Need not have to be. So it could literally be a snippet, right, of what was happening in the midway point of a session. You can do that. No problem. You can do that. But I understand 10, 15 minutes, it's going to be very hard for you to have a proper closing or even a proper opening as well, in my opinion. So it can literally even be just a snippet of one session. You can do that. No problem. But I think the whole idea here is, even before you start the presentation, I'll probably ask you to describe to us a bit more about the context of this segment. And this is where you can then tell us about it, basically. So now to be you, right, I wouldn't be that bothered about the opening and the closing for this mock-up session, if I were to be you. So focus more on the in-betweens. That will be what I'll be looking at. Okay, Judith? Good question, Judith. Good question. Yes, Jacinda.
So is there a marking criteria for the transcript?
Not really. Like I said, it'll be mainly me looking at the group counselor responses in the context of what is happening in the group at the moment. So that'll be the main thing I'll be looking at. Of course, there'll be some criteria about how much does it resemble the women's group transcript as well. So those will be some other criteria I'm looking at as well.
Okay, thank you.
Lawrence,
Christina.
okay, on the transcript itself, right, I noted from the sample that you given to us, on top of, just above the transcript itself, there's group 1, women session B. So if let's say our own transcript that we submitted, do we need to put something similar like group 1 or
No need.
group, then like which session or which section that we
I guess you can put down. Okay, you can put down session 1, session 2. You can put down that as well. Yeah. So I guess you can name the session number you want to. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that.
Okay.
You can do that. Sure. Other questions about group mock-up session?
Lawrence, you said as long as
Angel.
we cover all the responses, as in discretionary, interpretive, and all, we don't have to. We can just do one from each or two.
Can. Of course,
Doesn't
you
have
can
to
do that.
be, but it has to cover all 5, right?
Yes, you got it. Spot on. You got
Understood.
it. Yes, you're right.
And another question, it's only one session anyway.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's
Our
right. Session, you
transcript,
got
we
it.
don't have to do 2. Yeah, so
No.
if we just put 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1 until
Can.
1.100, it's fine, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
perfect.
fine. No problem.
That's all. Thanks.
All right. Okay.
Sorry,
Yes,
just
Priscilla.
following back on where Angie was left off.
Yes,
Just to
that's right.
clarify, that means the transcript that we present to you is only what we are going to speak on the presentation itself, the mock-up presentation.
Yes,
It
you're
do
right.
not
You're right.
be covering the whole session.
No
and
need. No need.
the
No
whole
need.
course,
You got
right?
it. Yeah, no need. No need. So it's only what you're going to be presenting on that day. You
Mm.
got it. That's right. Yes, all right.
Hi.
Yes, Jerry.
Sorry, just to clarify, because we have the PowerPoint slides also for the presentation. So
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify for in the slides itself, like, do we need to introduce like the characters or anything, or?
No need. Don't need to. No need to. So the whole idea is the presentation is only targeted at presenting the written report. Shall I say again? The presentation is targeted at presenting the written report. That will be the focus. So the mock-up session is separate from the report, basically. You got it. Yeah.
Basically like a more digestible version of our, like a more digestible version of our paper. Is that right?
Which one is more digestible?
Oh, sorry, like the presentation itself.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. So because because I'm the only one who will get to read all your wonderful reports, isn't it? So I guess for me is, even though the rest of us can't read it, through your presentation, at least we can sort of know, good counseling can also help this particular issue. Good counseling can also help this particular population. So at least, right, your presentation will help to stir up some of our curiosities about the other possibilities of how group counseling can be helpful to other populations out there as well. So that's really the function of your presentation, if you ask me.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Joreen.
So, hi, Lawrence.
Yes, Ying. Yes.
Yeah, just to check. So the link between the transcript and the report and the presentation is only the topic, right? Meaning,
you're right.
Yeah. So because the paper and the presentation is based on pure research studies, and then transcript that links back to that the other two is really the topic. Like for example, we choose brief.
You're right.
So the transcript will link back to brief, but it doesn't have to show anything about the research studies or anything. It's just narrating like acting it out.
You're right. Okay. That's right.
Sure.
You got it.
You.
No problem. Okay. Can I?
Lawrence, do you get extra points for special acting or anything like that?
Not really. No. Sorry to disappoint you, Judith. No. Yeah, that's right. Cool. That's a good one. Okay, Noah. All right. So let me just introduce to you our next topic, and then we go for a break. Okay. So here we go. All right. So for the rest of today, next week, the week after next, we'll be spending our whole entire time looking at our final component in our module together. And this particular component is called what? This particular component is called I lost something. Sorry, give me a second, okay? Come back again. Yes, it's back. Okay. So this topic is called stages of group development. Stages of group development. Now, my friends, for those of you who have been through the developmental psychology module, with my good friend, you probably will know, right? That in that module, what was being covered? What was being covered was as individual goes through different developmental life stages, there tends to be what? Unique challenges, isn't it? Example, let's say I'm going through adolescence. How I wish. Let's say I'm going through adolescent stage now. What do you think would be the unique challenge that I'll be facing in this particular stage of development?
Physical changes.
Physical changes, that's one. Some more? Some more? Adolescent stage. What would be the main conflict? What would be the main issue that I'll be grappling with besides physical changes?
Stress on academic achievement.
Okay, that could be possible. Stress on academics. Very good.
Cognitive
What else?
development.
Sorry.
Cognitive development.
Okay, sorry.
Cognitive development.
Yeah, so that will be a generic category. Okay. Some more.
I always think it's the finding of who I am. Like,
that's right. The big I word, identity, isn't it? So if I may bring you back to Erik Erikson, what did he say? He said that at the adolescent stage, it's about what? Identity clarity versus identity confusion. Remember now? You should begin to remember my good friend's voice, and his style, and his slick-looking hairstyle, isn't it? Right? Yeah. So identity confusion versus identity clarity. Another example. Let's say now if I were to be in late adulthood, let's say now I'm 75, late adulthood stage. What do you think will be the main struggle that I will be dealing with? Adulthood. About to die already. Late adulthood.
Health.
Adulthood. Health, yeah, of course. That'll be one main one, right? Besides the physiological challenge, what do you think I'll be going through psychologically and emotionally?
that knowing your end is near.
Correct. And knowing my end is near, right? Okay. What might be some feelings that I may be having?
Maybe a feeling of being
Regrets.
alone.
Alone, regrets, right? Okay, good. What did Erikson says? He said, late adulthood, the challenge that I would feel will be integrity versus despair. Remember now? My friends, have you ever wondered why did Erikson use the word integrity? Did my good friend explain this to you? I'm sure he didn't. So why integrity?
Because you look back onto your past work and see whether you've done it. Yeah.
Wow, that's right. Rebecca, was it taught by Mr. Lam, or you deciphered that on your own?
No, it was taught by Miss Conchetta.
Oh, Conchetta.
Yeah.
Okay. I see. Okay, good. Okay, Rebecca got it already. The reason why Erikson used the word integrity and despair is because, my friends, let me ask you, what do typical elderly people do? Typical elderly people love to reminisce about their past. Correct or not? Don't believe me? Talk to any elderly folk. They usually will tell you about the old days. Some will tell you the good old days. Some will tell you the bad old days. But one thing is more certain. More often than not, they will talk about the old days. So guess what? As I think back on the old days, I'm also making some conclusions about my old days. So if I concluded that my life was a failure, my life was a lie, my life was terrible, guess what? If I were to die today, I would die in despair. But if I were to think back on my life, not bad lah, not bad lah. I spent 10 over years at TSPP, not bad. Through the 10 over years, I inspire some people. Not bad lah, not bad lah. Of course lah, there are some other failures in my life, but as I think back about TSPP, not bad, not bad. What's happening here? As I begin to look back at my life, make some balanced evaluation of my life, if I were to die today, I think I would die with some integrity. That's why Eric Erickson used the term integrity and the term despair. Because this becomes literally the primary struggle that an elderly folk at late adulthood would be struggling. You're still with me? So probably going to ask me, Lawrence Ho, what has this got to do with this topic? Now comes the link. Then go for a break. Friends, the reason why you have to study Eric Erickson is because if I happen to know that I'm going to see a teenager for counseling, guess what? Knowing that identity is a big thing for him, that will help me as a counselor to be able to connect with him, to be able to help him to deal with his identity crisis. Same thing here. Why do we have to study stages of development? It's because if we know where the group is at which stage, as a group counselor, I would then know what interventions should I do in order to attend to this group at this stage. So that if I intervene well, there's a possibility that I can move them to the next stage of group development. Can you all follow me so far, my friends? So pretty very simply is this, we need to study this topic because we will help us to be able to intervene appropriately to get the group through all the stages in the group development stages. That's the reason why it's so important for any group counselor to learn about this particular topic. Okay. All right. So hopefully I will do a good job in presenting these stages to you from now all the way till our final lecture together. Okay. Questions about the overview of this topic? Holding so now, should be right here. Okay.
Actually, Laura,
Yes.
very careful question.
Yeah, go for it.
Stages of group development, right? Will you want us to include that in the paper? No need. Oh, okay.
No need.
That's all we need to know.
It's a relief. Yeah, good. That's good. That's most important. That's the most important.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, time check. Coming to 8:30. If we can be back by 8:40, we'll pick it up from there. So you guys 10 minutes. Most helpful. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, let's continue, shall we? All right. Now let me give you an overview about the stages that we'll be covering from now all the way until our final lecture together. So here we go. So basically, right, if you have a chance to read through your PowerPoint slides, you will notice that there are basically 4 major group developmental stages. What are these 4 stages? The first one is what we call the initial stage, followed by the transition stage, followed by the working stage, followed by the final stage. So I say again, basically, right, if you look at your PowerPoint slides, you'll notice that under the stages of group development, there seems to be 4 major stages. The first one, initial stage. Second one, transition stage. The third, working stage. And the fourth, final stage. Now, but there's still one more stage, which is not part of the 4, but it's still a stage. So we call this other stage the pre-group stage. So what do I mean? Come, let me share something with you. So basically, right, a very simple way to understand this is here. For these 4 stages, initial, transition, working, final, these 4 stages, it applies to when the group has started. Okay. So I say again, initial, transition, working, final stages, these 4 stages applies when the group that we are leading has started. Okay, so these where these 4 stages apply. But for the pre-group stage, this particular stage applies to the group not being formed yet. So for the pre-group stage, this particular stage applies to a group not being formed yet. That's why it's called pre-group stage. Okay. All right. Now, tonight, I'm hoping to have with all of you the pre-group stage of development. And I'm hoping to also begin to introduce to all of you the initial stage of development. So that's my plan for tonight. Next week, when we come back together, I will want to complete initial stage. Then I want to go to transition stage. I probably won't have time to complete the whole thing, but at least I want to cover some parts of the transition stage with us. Okay, got it? And then the week after, that is where I want to complete all the remaining with us. Okay, got it? So pretty very simply, for the next couple of sessions, it's going to be done in the Korean drama style. So one lecture will heavily connect to the next lecture, basically. So that's what I'm going to do, basically, for us. Okay? So it'll be good for you all to keep coming back so that you have a better idea about how all the stages can be linked up one with the other at the tail end of our time together. Okay, without further ado, let's get straight down to work, shall we? Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go to the slides in a moment, but before I do, let me just comment on something. Okay, my friends, I speak from experience, okay? More often than not, right, a lot of group counselors, me included, we tend to ignore the importance of the pre-group stage. Means what? We tend to want to hurriedly form a group and roll with the group lah. But we forgot that if we were to spend time planning for the group, you have to spend time recruiting meaningfully for the group, it would actually help the group to have a longer longevity life moving forward. So I remember I had my fair share of bad experiences where initially, when I first started leading groups, I really didn't bother much about the pre-group stage. Yeah, why bother? Right. Quickly form lah. What's more important? We have a group. Then we roll with it. But I soon realized that when I do not focus on the pre-group stage, more often than not, the group that I form would usually break up halfway, or the group will naturally die. A natural death lah. Okay, in a way where it gets disbanded lah after a while. That's the reason why tonight I want to very much spend some time really going through with you how should we do a comprehensive pre-group stage, with the hope that once we do this well, it will actually put us in a better position to lead this group that's being formed all the way until the final stage of group development. Okay, so I hope that it will be a meaningful time of learning for all of us. Okay, good. So here we go. Back to the slides. Okay. Okay, so basically, this will be the lecture that I'll be looking at. Okay, techniques for forming groups. Put it very simply, we're talking about pre-group stage. Right. Okay, so here we go. Can I invite all of you to read through this particular slide and the slide after? We'll talk about it. Okay, read through it carefully. Okay, all done? Really? Let's talk about it, shall we? My friends, what you see in slide number 3 and 4 are a list of questions. Correct or not? So very important. How I would like you to approach all these questions is to look at all these questions as a checklist. So I say again, how I would like you to approach all these questions in slide 3 and 4 is to look at all these questions as a checklist. A checklist about what? A checklist for you to think through, a checklist for you to consider before you even decide to lead any group. Because in my opinion, when we do not consider carefully all these questions, more often than not, the group that we lead may actually not be the most meaningful. It may not even be needed in the first place. Got it? So it pays a lot for you and I to spend time thinking through all these questions, in answering all these questions, so that when we do decide to lead a group, that will be a wise decision. That will be a well-informed decision. Got it? So that is something that I hope you can remember, basically. Okay. Let me go through some of the questions here. Okay, shall we? So here we go. So even before you lead a group, if I were to be you, ask yourself the first question. What are your qualifications to lead a group? My friends, qualifications here does not just refer to academic. So you can remember what I taught you in the first two lectures? Qualifications here also include your experience. Means what? You can remember what I mentioned? Lecture 2, I said, if you can help it, be a group member first before you become a group leader. That's number one. But even before that, have you accumulated enough individual counseling exposure? Because in my opinion, if my individual counseling exposure is very little, I probably wouldn't want to be leading a group now. Because, just imagine, we're talking about multiply by 8, multiply by 10, multiply by 12. So can you imagine? If one-to-one I'm struggling like mad, now I have to face 8 people, now I have to face 10 people. It's going to be very daunting, isn't it? So very important. So when I talk about qualifications, it's really about experience. Experience here refers to how much individual counseling experience have you accumulated? Followed by, have you been a member in a group before? Followed by, did you have a chance to be a co-facilitator? Did you have a chance to be a co-group leader before? So all this, my friends, they are all lumped under experience. Okay? And if you have all that checked out, then you're probably ready to now be leading. Okay, follow? So it goes way beyond, my friends, academic. We are really talking about academic plus your experience, really. So it's really about that. Okay, good. Move on. Then we come to a next question, which is very important. What kind of group will this be? My friends, what should you be thinking about? Lecture number 1. What were the kinds of groups that I taught you so far? Recap.
Whether it's support or counseling groups.
Good. What else?
Education groups.
Psycho ed group as well as growth groups, isn't it? So those are the 4. You can remember what I taught you, lecture 1, right? I spoke about psycho-educational groups, remember? Right? I spoke about growth groups. What are growth groups? They are basically self-awareness groups. Remember? Looking at your faces, don't remember already. Never mind. Then we spoke about support groups. Under support group, we can have what? Support group led by a counselor. It could even be self-help group led by a recovering client. And finally, we have counseling groups, isn't it? So very important. So you have to ask yourself, what sort of group do I want to be leading? What sort of group? Support, psycho ed, growth, or counseling? What kind of group do I want to be leading? That is very, very, very important a question to answer. Because the type of group you're going to be leading will greatly determine all the other things, which I'll come to in a moment. Notice, my friends, once I know what kind of group I want to lead, it will help me to become clearer about the structure. What do I mean? So if I'm leading a support group, alamak, structure not that important. Every week, come together, we talk, we support, settle. But if it's going to be a counseling group, very different already. I have to plan, session 1, do what? Session 2, do what? Session 3, do what? Session 4, do what? that becomes very, very, very important, isn't it? Psycho-ed group, even more. Wow, what information should I share? Then how should I facilitate? Wow, important. Growth, lagi more important. Wow, how can I plan different activity to help the group to get to know themselves better? Wow. So guess what? So the type of group, the kind of group will greatly influence how much structure you have to plan as you plan out the group moving forward. Can you all follow me so far, my friends? Can you understand this? Okay. Yeah, Jacinta, I see your hand. Go for it.
So which means to say group counseling is an intervention by itself and it's got nothing to do with psychoeducation.
Okay. I guess put it this way. Group counseling or counseling groups is one type of group. Psycho-ed group is another kind of group.
Okay. So which means it's a separate form, right?
Yes, I would think so. But the skills required to lead both types of groups can be rather similar. What do I mean? The 15 responses I taught all of you, you can use the 15 techniques both from psycho-ed group as well as in a counseling group. But the purpose of leading each of these kind of groups could be very different, basically.
Okay, thank you.
So far, still with me? Yeah, let me continue. Now let's get to a third question. Very important. The question, What will be your main function as a group leader? Notice, my friends, you can only answer this question after you have figured out the earlier question, which is the kind of group, isn't it? Example. Let's say I decided, I want to lead a psycho-ed group. Now, this particular question, what function will I be playing? Well, I have to ask myself, will I be playing the educator role? Will I be playing the facilitator role? Or will I be playing both roles? Educator role plus facilitator role. Can you all follow me, my friends? So that's the reason why, right? This earlier question about what kind of group it will be, will greatly determine your answers to the other questions on this checklist. Okay? Of course, very important as well. When you look at the word function, you have to bring back what? What I taught you in lecture number 2, which is you have to consider about leadership style. Remember not? What were the 2 leadership styles that I taught you, lecture 2? What were the 2 leadership styles that I taught you, lecture 2? Group directed or leader directed. Can you remember now? Group directed, leader directed. And I mentioned to you, right, that we should look at these 2 styles on a continuum, isn't it? Because more often than not, if I'm leading a support group, I'll be steering more towards which side? Everything returned back to me already. If I were to be leading a support group, which side would I steer towards?
Leader directed.
Group directed.
Group directed.
Thank you. Group directed. If I'm leading a counseling group,
Leader directed.
that's right, leader directed. Got it? That's the reason why, like I said, your answer to this question, what kind of group, will greatly determine your answer to this particular question of your main function. Got it? Same thing. You also have to think about what? The 2 I's. Remember? Intrapersonal versus interpersonal, isn't it? So no matter what kind of group we lead, the 2 I's is something that we have to be looking out for as well. Got it? So all these things becomes important. So all that I taught you, lecture 2, not just theory, you know. Now it becomes very, 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 very pragmatic. Becomes very important to think about. Good. Okay, quickly moving on. Then we come to another question over here, very important. Why is a group useful for the purposes that you hope to accomplish? So this is where you ask yourself, why must it be group counseling? Why can't individual counseling be sufficient? Why must I lead a group? What is it about individual counseling that's lacking here? That's why I have to lead a group. In other words, you have to ask yourself, why do I need to lead a group? What is it about individual counseling that can't achieve these purposes? So that becomes important for you to ask yourself, basically. So more often than not, right, if you ask me personally, I would say the purposes, right, a lot of times, right, is about helping those clients who didn't really make much changes in individual counseling work. What do I mean? Later on you discover, sometimes, right, clients come for individual counseling. They say they want to change, but they never change. Or they change very little, or they change a bit, they become discouraged after that. What do? This is where I ask myself, okay, so for all these clients that see me for individual counseling, changes a bit, no, maybe not even there. What do? Maybe if I put them all into a group with me, now I leverage on the group to help the group to make changes. Now, it's not just me ham-tumming the group. I now want the group to ham-tum each other so that they can begin to be making more changes forward. So can you remember the first section? Under reasons for group. Remember, I mentioned to you, what is one of the most powerful reasons why groups are so important? The commonality factor and also the feedback factor, isn't it? If you have 9 people saying the same thing, it's way more powerful than just one counselor saying that same thing, isn't it? And when the group can find some commonality, the momentum becomes so fast compared to individual counseling. Got it? That's why we figure out why. Why do we need to run a group? Why don't we just continue with one-to-one counseling? Why? This becomes a very crucial factor for you to eventually decide whether is group counseling truly needed or not. The purpose, basically. Okay? All right. Of course, after that comes this other question. For whom is the group designed for? Talking about population. Okay, very important, right? Of course, after that, what are the main goals of this group that I want to be leading? Once again, the main goals has a lot to do with the kind of group that you are leading. If I'm leading a support group, main goal is to facilitate members to share. Main goal is for the group to really support one another. But if it's a counseling group, I suppose there'll be other more specific goals that we are aiming for generally. So once again, it's greatly related to the type of group that you want to be leading moving forward. So very important. And the other questions which are more technical, let me go through it with you. Yeah, this one. Logistics, this one. Where will the group be held? Important, location. How long? Very important, my friends. How long, Now, how long here, right? Let me introduce to you 2 words. Yeah. Open versus close. Okay, now let me use the whiteboard to talk about this. Friends, what do we mean by open groups? Very simple. Open groups basically refer to the starting point of the group and the ending point of the group is quite vague. And the membership of the group is also open. Example, let's say I'm leading a support group. Let's say, okay, what happens? Let's say we decided to start in this week. Let's say we start next week. Let's say on a Wednesday. Next week will be what? Next week will be 28, 1, 2. 2nd March. Let's say we start the support group, 2nd March. If I'm running it as an open group, if you ask me, Lawrence, how long will we be meeting up in the support group? I'll say to you, depends. So in other words, there might not be a definite end date for this support group that I'm leading. Let's say you ask me, Lawrence, what is the membership size of this group? I can tell you, it depends. Means what? I'm open for the membership of every session to fluctuate. Example, first session, I may have 20 people. Second session, 5 people. Third session, 15 people. Fourth session, 25 people. I don't care. So for me, as long as there are people, I'll run the group anyway. What do you call this? We call this open groups. Okay, follow? And you'll find that open groups tend to be applicable for support groups, tend to be applicable for self-help groups the most. So go to any AA group, they will tell you, we meet every week. How long? Depends. Group size, don't care. We adapt. We adapt. No problem one, we adapt. So open group basically. Closed group, opposite. We have a definite start date of the group. We also have a definite end date of the group. In other words, for closed group, we have to figure out the number of sessions. Is it going to be 5 sessions, 8 sessions, 12 sessions? Over how long? Weekly, bi-weekly, 3 times once? All these becomes important consideration to think about. Also for closed groups, the membership is fixed. If we start off having 12 people, we will want to keep to this 12 all the way till the end. We wouldn't add in any new member in between our sessions, basically. So that, my friends, refers to a closed group. And usually, counseling group will fall under the closed group category. And follow me so far, my friends, into this point. Okay, quickly moving on. Go back to my slides. Good. Now comes the next question, very important. This one. Is your group sensitive to members with diverse background? Later on, you'll hear me talk about it a bit more. Meaning, right, very important. As mentioned to you previously, whenever we lead any group, we want to work towards inclusivity rather than exclusivity. So basically, right, very important. Later on, when we are screening for members to join our group, we have to screen for how open is the group member to diverse backgrounds. So in other words, right, as early as the screening process, we have to be screening for the right people. So can you imagine if I allow a member to join the group and this member is ultra biased against a particular race, ultra biased against a particular culture, I'm asking for trouble. Because later on, what's going to happen? There will surely be division. There will surely be awkward moments. Worse, there will surely be insulting moments. Whose fault? I guess I have to take some fault because I allowed this member to come in the first place, isn't it? So very important, we have to be asking ourselves, right? We have to be screening this out generally. That's important. Now, this question here, right, also implies another thing, which is you as a group member, are you ready to lead a group that has diverse backgrounds. So what do I mean? Sometimes for newbie counselors, right, you may find too diverse a group to be too daunting to lead. Let's be very honest, isn't it? So this is where, right, if you feel that, maybe for a start, my first group, maybe I want to keep it to a bit more homogeneous, maybe for a start. Maybe that might be the way to go. And as you begin to become more and more experienced, then you can begin to lead a more heterogeneous group. That could be possible. So this is where, right, you also have to be very honest to ask yourself, how far can I stretch myself? How ready can I stretch myself as I begin to lead this group? That making sense? Are you still with me on this? Okay, good. So that's important. Then comes a very, 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 very challenging thing to think about, which is here. What steps will you take to ensure confidentiality? My friends, if you ask me, right, what is the number one barrier that prevents people to come to join the group? I will say to you, without a shadow of a doubt, it is this: confidentiality. What do I mean? How sure I am that whatever that I share in the group stays in the group? How sure? What assurance can you provide for me that whatever that we share stays in the group? Why is this a problem? It's because when more people knows about our secret, when more people knows about our traumatic past, how certain are we that every member will keep to themselves? Quite hard, right? Isn't it? If you see a counselor one-to-one, a bit easier, isn't it? Okay, counselor professional, part of SAC. If counselor were to divulge, no problem. Complete to SAC, Lawrence Ho get his mark. No, simple. But group, a bit difficult. How am I going to know who spread the news? How am I going to know who actually spread? How am I going to know? No way I will know. That's the reason why confidentiality is a big thing when we are leading groups. So later on, I'll share with you my take. What are the steps that I typically would do to ensure that confidentiality will be safeguarded? My friends, there's no such thing as a foolproof thing. No such thing. All that we can do is we take rightful measures to keep this in check. But there's no such thing as a foolproof thing moving forward. But this is something, right, they have to start to think about. Right? So what are the steps? What are the protocols that have to be put in place so that confidentiality can be safeguarded at the supreme level? That's something that we have to think about. Then, of course, topics to explore. My friends, now you know why, right? In the group project, I wanted you all to include topics. Now you know why? Because there's always a pragmatic value here, isn't it? So once again, like I said, if we are leading a counseling group, topics becomes very important. Same thing, if I'm leading a psycho-ed group, topics becomes important. Same thing, if I'm leading a growth group, topics becomes important. Whereas if I'm leading a support group, self-help group, topics probably wouldn't be that important after all. Got it? So this is where it's so important for us to be thinking about topics, especially for psycho-ed, growth, especially counseling groups per se. That becomes important. All right. And of course, very important, that one. Wow, very serious, right? How will you deal with potential dangers or risk of group participation? So, what do we mean by potential dangers? What do we mean by risk? Now, it can be anything under the sun. Means what? Potential dangers could be fights. Yeah. Potential dangers could be, like what Angel was asking me, nasty arguments. Potential dangers could be, yeah, like I said, fighting. It could even be things that happen outside of the group that's related to the group. What do I mean? What happens if a member, after the session, begins to take to Instagram to blackmouth another member? What do you call that? Potential harm. What happens if a member, right, were to begin to stalk another member in between sessions? Potential harm. So it can be anything and anything that can happen. That's why leading a group is so tough. We cannot really predict what's going to happen as we lead this particular group. But it's something that we have to think ahead, so that if it does happen, we hopefully will know how do we address it moving forward. Got it? So better be prepared than to be sorry later on. That's always the rule of thumb when we lead groups generally. All right. All scared already, right? Yeah, I'll share more later on. All scared already, I know. I can tell from your look. Okay, continue. Then, of course, you have to think about what the big E word called evaluation. Means what? There must be a mechanism for us to gather feedback, isn't it? So this is where, right, I'll share with you, of course, my style. I'm a person who loves to collect feedback. Because I know I'm not perfect. But the more important thing is, when there's consistent feedback, we can rescue the ship from sinking. So for me, I will usually be planning for intermittent feedback. Example, if I'm leading a 12-session group, you can be dead sure at the 3rd session, 6th session, 9th session, I'll be collecting feedback like mad, so that I can be making changes along the way, isn't it? But this is something that you have to think about right now. What sort of evaluation procedure do you want to put in to ensure that you're receiving feedback along the way? So more often than not, we may have written feedback as well as verbal feedback. Meaning, I may distribute a form, or I may call up every member to ask them what do they think about the session so far. So usually it's a combination of written plus verbal feedback that we're gathering more often than not. But it's important that we start to think about this right from the start. It's important. Then finally, the final idea, the final item, very important. What do we mean by follow-up procedures? Means after the group officially ends, what's next? Example, if I'm leading a counseling group, 12 sessions. Once we hit the 12th session, are we going to be having follow-up sessions? Example, we come back together once in 3 months for review. We come back together once a month for review. What do you call that? We call these follow-up procedures, follow-up measures. Got it? So these are things that you may want to think about even as you are planning for this particular group in the beginning. Okay. All right. Okay, let me come out to join. Any questions about the checklist? Hope I was clear as I explained it out to you.
I have one question. I know later on you will be explaining about the screening process for the sensitivity. But can I just ask, what if it happens that it wasn't picked up and it comes out while you are already in the group? What do you like? Do we ask one of them to leave or?
Yes, I would. So I'll talk about it more later. Yeah, I would. So I guess, of course, before I ask the person to leave, I'll do other things first, which I'll share what I'll do. But you're right. We owe it to the group to be their protector. We owe it to the group to be their guardian of confidentiality. That's what we owe them. So we have to do something if things are to go southwards. We have to do something about it. That's for sure. But I guess the whole idea here is we need to be thinking about actions on a continuum. Means I should be planning out my move from less severe to more severe. less serious to more serious, rather than just having one measure alone. So that's something that we have to think about, even as we are planning for any basically. So I'll come back to your questions later on. Yeah, good question.
So,
Other
Lawrence,
clarifications? Yes.
let's say based on the feedbacks, right? Written and verbal feedbacks. So the
Yes.
feedback can be about the counselor themselves, can be about the
Can be.
group,
Can
be about the topics that we are talking and the
Yes.
feelings.
You're
So
right.
it can be anything.
You got it. That's right. Yes, you got it. So the whole idea here is, right, we have to plan, if it's written, right, how would the form be organized? If it is over interview, right, what are the questions I need to ask? So that you'll become very structured, very formalized.
Okay. So this feedback, right, would it be like one-to-one or would it be in the group itself?
Okay, up to you to plan. Up to you to plan. For me, usually during the initial stage of development, I will normally collect feedback one-to-one. Because no point, if we are getting to know each other, alamak, we probably will say all the PC answers, all the politically correct answer. No point. So for me, right, initially, I will do one-to-one. As we become more and more warmed up, that is where I will do both group level as well as individual level. At the tail end, I will just do group plus individual as well. So I guess it very much depends on what is my general feel about where the group is. That will help me to decide whether is it group level or whether should it be individual or whether should it be both moving forward.
Okay. So if let's say, for instance, during the verbal time, right? So there are some, we gather some feedback. Some could be very general, like what you say, PC answers. So is it possible that we do both verbal and written both at the same time? That means we talk about what we can be expressed during the time for members who feel a bit more sensitive subject, things like that. They can actually write down and pass it to the counselor.
Yes, in fact, right, that is the way to go. We always believe, right, that evaluation should be multi-pronged. It should be multivariate, put it this way. Because if I were to only use verbal, I am disregarding those members who are more written, vice versa. If I only collect from the group, never hear from individual, I'm neglecting the individual differences in the feedback. So the whole idea here is, right, for feedback to be collected meaningfully, we need to be using a multi-pronged approach, varied approach, basically, to collect meaningful feedback from the group more often than not.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Good question. But my friends, all these things is planning, isn't it? That's why we have to start thinking about all these things in the beginning so that we can plan for it, basically.
Mr. Lawrence, hi. I have two questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Regarding the confidentiality, right?
Yes.
So how do we make sure that the sharings about the participants, how do we make sure that it's confidential?
I'll talk about it later. That's right. Yes, I will. That's one. Number two.
And then the second question is for the potential danger and risk.
Yes.
I mean, like, if the participants, if they fight outside of the group, right, we wouldn't know, as a counselor, we wouldn't know if there has a...
We don't know.
So how do we deal with that? Or we just... I can't...
Okay, got it. So I guess it depends. You're right, Mira. So there will be times where incidences that happen outside the group may not be in our know. May not be.
Okay.
Right. So I guess a few things will happen. First, even if we do not know in real time, if the group were to talk about it eventually, that will be still something that I have to address.
Okay.
Especially if it's directly related to why are we meeting together for. Isn't it? Right? But you're right. There will always be certain situations where I will be kept in the dark all the way through. And that will be something which I probably can't do much about more often than not. But for those things that happen outside the group that I eventually become aware of, that's where I have to do something about it, usually. That's right.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence.
No problem. I'll come back to your first question later on as well, the confidentiality part.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks. I'll move forward. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about a very, 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 very important step in pre-group stage. It's all about two alphabets, R and S. Okay? So what's R, what's S? Here we go. It's all about this particular R word called recruitment plus selection. Okay. So those of us on HR, you probably will find these two words to be very familiar to you, R and S. Recruitment and selection. Okay, good. Now, once again, speak from experience, I really learned it the hard way. What do I mean? In the beginning of my career, I really neglected the R and S. And yeah, and I have to live with the consequence. So the whole idea here is the more time you spend on the R and S, the more likely your group will be all the way till the end at the final stage. If you were to spend very little time on R and S, more often than not, our groups may actually die a premature death. So R and S is very, very, very important for the longevity of any group moving forward. So let me share with you some very important things to take note when we are doing R and S. Good. Let me draw for you a diagram to make it more easier to understand. Okay, so here we go. Okay, now think about R and S as an inverted triangle. Why? Just because whenever we are doing recruitment, what are we doing? We are casting our net wide, isn't it? So as we cast our net wide, we are inviting candidates. And as we invite candidates to come, what happens? We will begin to screen them. We will begin to interview them, isn't it? So slowly but surely, the numbers will begin to dwindle. Slowly but surely, the numbers will begin to become smaller. That is the reason why I use the inverted triangle shape to represent recruitment and selection. It should be funneling down rather than becoming broader. Got it? So that's the reason why I find this particular shape to be quite helpful in helping us to understand recruitment and selection. So let me first and foremost talk about recruitment, shall we? Good. All right, so here we go. After you have gone through the checklist that just covered just now, right? You have thought through all the checklist items already. You are all set to go. What do you do? Now, you already know what is the group for. You already know what is the goals of the group. All this you already know already. What are we to do? So now we have to go out there and recruit members that will fit the bill. So this is where, right? This is where I always like to play it safe in the beginning. So what do I mean by playing it safe? Well, usually my first recruitment source will be my clients. So I say again, once I've gone through the checklist, I've decided what group to lead, the goals, the purpose, whatever not. What do? As I go out there and recruit members, my first recruitment source, more likely than not, would be my clients. So what do I mean by my clients? Well, my clients here refers to my individual counseling clients. My individual counseling clients. So this is where, right? My clients here could refer to my current clients It could also refer to my past clients. So what do I mean by current and past? Well, current here could refer to these clients are currently seeing me for individual counseling. That is what I mean by current. What do I mean by past clients? Well, these clients have come to see me before, but their cases are closed. Got it? These clients have come to see me before, but their cases are now closed at this moment. Those are what we mean by past clients. Okay, follow me, my friends. So why? Why would I want to go to my clients as my first recruitment source? What might be some benefits in me doing that? What do you think? What might be some benefits for me doing that? To go to my clients first. Yes.
They have
That's
trust. They have trust in you, and
That's right.
also know their insecurities and all of that.
Yeah, spot on. My friends, number one, right? If I go to my clientele group, at least I know some of the members in my group, I'm familiar to them. They are familiar with me. That makes starting this group to be less daunting, both for me as well as for my group members. Can you follow me, my friends? Familiarity goes a long way in breaking the ice. Familiarity goes a long way in establishing trust, no doubt about it. Okay? So that's important. And also, right, as I approach my clientele group, guess what? I will probably be approaching those whom I think will fit the bill more, isn't it? Because I know them, I work with them. And the likelihood of these members, right, fitting the bill will be a lot higher, which means I am really getting the right people to be joining the group at this moment in time. So pretty very simply, right, I am having more control in the group membership with the hope that this will provide the stability for the group to have a more longevity life moving forward. So far making sense to you, my friends? Good. Jacinta, yes, go for it.
So this recruitment of clients applies to involuntary counseling sessions?
May not be. I'll talk about it later. May not be.
Okay.
So I'm talking more in the context of voluntary right now. Okay. Okay, Jacinta?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Good. Now, after I've approached my clients, right? Let's say, I still don't have enough people to come forward. What do? This is where I will go to my second recruitment source. So, what would be my second recruitment source? I will go to my colleagues. My colleagues. What do I mean? Now, very important. If my own pool of people not enough, I want to go to the next source who knows my work quite well. So I believe that my colleagues probably knows me pretty well. My colleagues probably knows my work pretty well. My colleagues probably knows my strengths and shortcomings pretty well. So I hope that as I approach my colleagues, the people they refer to me for this group will hopefully be the ideal candidate, because my colleagues know their clients. My colleagues know who they're working with. And as I share with them about the criteria, as I share with them about the group purpose, as I share with them about the group's goals, I trust that because we are colleagues, they will be able to do the recruitment in the best way possible, so that the people that come forward will likely than not fit the bill for this particular group person. So once again, notice I'm playing it safe all the way through, am I not? My friends, you'll thank me later. When you play it safe, usually you'll reap the rewards later on. I can assure you that. So let's say, for example, right, you go to your colleagues, same thing, not enough clients, not enough candidates. What do? Now you go to the recruitment source, which is that one, okay, relevant agencies. What do I mean by relevant agencies? Very simple, my friends. The word relevant here refers to relevant to your current work situation. Example, let's say currently now, I'm working in a counseling center. What do? Let's say my clientele group, not enough candidates. My colleagues clientele group, not enough candidates. What do? Now I will want to go to other counseling centers in Singapore. Why? Because counseling centers in Singapore is the same setting as my current work situation. Another example, let's say if I'm now working in a school as a school counselor, same thing. Relevant agency here refers to other school counselors. Got it? Let's say now I'm working in a hospital. Relevant agency will be other hospitals out there. Got it? So we are always looking for similarities so that the people that's being referred to us, more likely than not, they may fit the bill. Got it? That's what I'm going for. So my friends, you notice, right? I have not even reached out to the public yet. Have I not? Because if I reach out to the public, there is more uncertainty. There's a lot less I can control, isn't it? But as I keep to these three sources, more often than not, I would receive good recommendation for the right people for the group. Of course, if you want to, the final source can be the public. You can. But to be honest with you, right, when was the last time you saw an advertisement on the newspaper, an advertisement in the Straits Times, an advertisements in the Chinese gossipy paper asking for people to join a support group? Don't have, right? If you have, tell me, okay? I've yet to see an advertisement in that context. So which means what? Which means that going public usually isn't the way that we go, especially when we are leading such groups which are highly sensitive. That's why it's more important for us to go with what we know. If we really have to, then we'll go public. But more likely than not, that will not be where we'll go usually. Take a close. Questions about recruitment? I was clear. Quickly moving on. So after you've gathered a pool of candidates, this is where we go the next step. What's the next step? Next step is we screen. Friends, this is where a lot of group counselors take the shortcut. Me included. First to confess, me included. My friends, it takes a long time to screen people, I can assure you. But I can also assure you that the time that you spend in screening your members, you will thank me later as well. So how do we screen candidates? Well, the old-fashioned way. What's the old-fashioned way? Interview lah. Cannot, how should I put it? There's no easier way than that. It has to be done in the interview way. Because it's only through interview, that is where I believe we can have a better assessment of where the likely group member might be. Whether are they ready for it or whether are they not ready for it. So interviews become so important in the screening process. So over here, right now for you, 1-to-1 interviews. Once again, I'm going to provide for you a checklist of questions to use. Not bad, right? For interviews. Where can you find it? Let's go back to the slide, shall we? Take a look. Okay. All this you can read on your own. I already covered that. A bit different, but yeah, it's there. Okay, good. Okay, could I invite you to read through slide number 6, starting from here? Yeah. All the way until slide number 7. Okay, all the way here. Okay, then we talk about it. Stay with me, stay with me. I know you're tired. All done reading? Let's talk about it, shall we? All right, so here we go. So once again, all the questions here in these 2 slides, if you like them, these becomes what? Your checklist questions. I say again, if you like the questions in these 2 slides, if I were to be you, make a record of it. Put it into a template if you want to, or you put it into a whatever that works for you, so that when you are screening members, you can be mindful about asking your potential members these questions. Got it? These questions have served me very well in my career so far. And I trust that it will serve you well as you use them later on when you become a group counselor, just like me. Okay? Let me highlight to you a few of these questions which I love to use. I don't use all of them, but I use quite a fair bit of them. Let me just highlight to you some of them. Come. Let me go back to my first slide. Okay, of course, right? Very important. The first question and the first 2 are very important. Okay? Because it tells us about the motive of why this particular potential member wants to join the group. Got it? So very important. So the question about why do you want to join this group? That is really very important. Of course, the second one, have you ever participated in a group or individual therapy before? Very important. This question, what was the experience like for you? Sometimes, right, I will expand on this question by asking, what was pleasant about the experience and what was unpleasant about the experience? Got it? So sometimes I will ask additional questions to get this potential group member to share with me what was pleasant about undergoing individual therapy, what wasn't pleasant about it. What was pleasant about being in the previous group and what wasn't pleasant about it. as the individual member share me all these things, it will also help me to know whether is this client ready to be joining my group moving forward. So that becomes important. Yeah. Then comes the next slide. This one. Okay. Now, very important. Let me highlight to you a few of these questions which I found very helpful. This one. Okay, this one. And this one. Why are these three questions so important? These three questions are important because if I ask them well, it will greatly determine for me whether is this member ready to join my group. Take a look. First question. Do you have any fears about joining the group? Now, this question, right, is actually a very tricky question. Why do I say that? If the member tells me, oh, Lawrence, I got fear. I ask, fear about what? Oh, I got fear about sharing about my life struggles. Now, if this particular member tells me, I have fears about sharing my life struggles, I will begin to wonder whether is this member ready to join a counseling group, ready to join a support group. Because if you want to get maximum yield for yourself, you have to be at least ready to share your struggles. You have to be at least ready to share all your problems, isn't it? So by asking, what fears do you have, is a very indirect way of letting the cat out of the bag. So some of my interviews, right, some of the members, right, actually let the cat out of the bag without them knowing. And as they tell me about how they are not ready, oh, then I know that probably they're not ready for group counseling right now, basically. Other ways to ask it could be here, this part. Second question, this part. Next question. How ready are you to take a critical look at your life? Same thing, So now this question, right, is a lot more direct compared to the earlier one, isn't it? But the intention, the same. We are really asking the client about their readiness. We are really asking the client about their openness, isn't it? Their readiness to do what? Their openness to do what? Their readiness and openness to share about themselves. Talk about a particular problem that they are facing. So that is what we are gunning at, my friends. Because members who aren't ready tells us that probably group counseling may not be the right intervention for them. Perhaps individual counseling might be a more nicer fit for them generally. Okay? And the third way, similar, isn't it? I could ask, what are some specific personal concerns you would like to explore in the group? Same thing. If the client tells me nothing, that tells me what? More likely than not, this particular member may not be ready, may not be the most ideal in joining my group right now. Are you all with me so far? Got it? So pretty very simply, my friends, when you go for a test, right? You know a test? MCQ test, usually, right? What happens? You will find, right, that in an MCQ test, right, there could be different questions asking about the same thing, isn't it? Why that? It's a way to verify whether do you really understand the topic. Same thing. When you go and do a personality test, same thing. You will find different questions asking about the same thing, isn't it? We're looking for consistency. So pretty very simply, right? If you go back to the previous slide. Next question. Why do you want to join this group? Guess what? Whatever answers the group member tell me, I will want to verify it with his or her reply to the next 3 questions. Got it? So if the answers don't tally, guess what? It will tell me that this particular potential group member may not be ready to join my group. But if the answers kind of tally, may not be 100%, but it kind of tally 80%, then at least I would have a greater confidence that this particular member might be more ready to be joining my group. Did you all follow me so far, my friends? Okay. Good. Then you're probably curious to know, right? Lawrence, why did you add in the last question there? What do you want to know more about me? Oh, wow. Egoistic, isn't it? I know, my friends. It's not being egoistic. It's being fair. What do I mean? Come on. If I am the only one that can ask you all the questions, you have no right to ask me any questions. Where is the fairness? No fairness. So the final question there, right, is really there for 2 reasons. One is fair. It's only fair for a potential candidate to ask me questions as much as I ask him or her questions. It's only fair. Second, I also believe the questions the candidate asks me will also tell me how ready they are to join the group. Example, let's say the member asks me, oh, Lawrence, your group, will it be only for Chinese or will it also have other race? Guess what? Guess what? It tells me already. Maybe, just maybe, this particular member may not be ready for a more diverse group. Can you follow? So I'm a firm believer that members who ask me questions, through their questions, it also indicates to me whether are they ready or not ready to join the group. Another example, let's say the member asks me, hey, Lawrence, how old are you? Let's say ask me, very direct. I say, oh, I'm 51 this year. Then I'll ask, oh, is there a concern behind this question? Let's say the member say, oh, yeah. I find you kind of young, to lead this group. Let's say, maybe honest opinion. What do? Now I have to think, what happens if, right, other members is agak my age? What's going to happen? If this particular member comes on board, right, maybe, just maybe, there will be quite a bit of conflicts which I'll be foreseeing. So this is when, like I said, questions that people have about us sometimes will be quite telling about what are their present concerns. And we can talk about it. And through that, we can make a more informed decision about whether is this member ideal for our group or not. Okay, let me just take a pause. I'm not done yet, I'm just taking a pause. So far, still with me? Okay, good. Now, very important. Let's say, right, after we've done all the screening interviews already, right? Now comes the hard part. What's the hard part? How do we break the news to those members whom we are not recruiting them on board? Breaking the bad news is always a hard part, isn't it? Let me share with you about my view about this. Now, for me, right, I have this particular view. Some people disagree with me, but which I'm fine with that. For me, right, is this. For those members that I'm going to turn them down for group membership, I would always offer them individual counseling option. I say again, if you didn't catch me, I say again. For every potential member that I'm turning down to join my group, I would offer them individual counseling option. So if you're going to ask me, right, Lawrence, why? Here comes the reason. One, I'm a firm believer that the fact that this particular member came forward tells me what? there might still be an element of this person wanting change, or at least wanting to talk about themselves or their problem. So if group counseling isn't the right option, in my opinion, individual counseling might be the right option. So why should I be depriving this particular member from this other option? I wouldn't want to. Number two, okay, I also want to tell this member another, which is, well, while group may not be the best arrangement for you now, I'm very much open to be seeing you individually. So I'm telling this member that I'm not in any way rejecting you personally. It's just about the right fit for the right arrangement. So I trust that as I offer individual counseling as an option, it may be able to cushion this member from taking this rejection personally. So that's the other reason why I counter propose the individual counseling option. This is for that reason. Okay. Got it? But that's my view. You are more than welcome to disagree with me on this, but that's my view. So if you ever were to join me in the group, you will find that I will definitely offer you individual counseling if I find you to be not suitable to be joining my group. That's for sure. That's always a policy that I have for myself. Always. Okay.
What if
Finally,
Lawrence, what if that person asks why they can't be in that group?
I will. Okay, of course. Very important. I will also explain to them why I'm not accepting them in the group as well. I would. Okay. Usually for me, right, as I share the why, I will also talk about how the why can possibly be addressed when we have individual sessions. Example. Let's say, for example, member A, I decided to not include her in the group because she seems to be not ready to talk about her problems. Let's say that's the reason. I would say, well, this is the reason. I would say, well, while you may not be comfortable to address your problem in a group, I find that maybe you might be more ready to talk about it one-to-one with me. Because number one, they're threatening. Number two, I can be going along with your pace more as compared to you having to adapt to the pace of the group too fast, that kind of idea. So more often than not, I will be addressing how relevant individual counseling would be to the reason why I'm turning them down for being a member of my group. That making sense to you, my friends? That's what I typically will do usually. And more often than not, the individual members will see maybe joining Lawrence for individual sessions might just be a good option, even though it's turning me down in joining this group. And the other thing to remember is always this: when I turn someone down, right, I always make it a point to say, right now. What do I mean? If you can help it, right, never use definite, irreversible language. So let's say I'll never say to the group member, oh, I find that group counseling is not suitable for you. I wouldn't say that. Instead, I would say, oh, Mary, I find that right now, at this moment of your life, joining this group may not be the most helpful for the following reasons. Notice what I say? I say right now, at this point of your life. Why is that important, my friends? I'm keeping it open for the member. Perhaps 6 months later, you might be more ready. Perhaps 9 months later, you might be more ready. Perhaps 1 year later, you might be ready. Who am I to say otherwise? Isn't it? So all that I can do is, at this moment, joining this group may not be the most helpful for the following reasons. So very important, my friends. So it's always important that the ownership is on us to phrase our comments well, so that clients can take it well as well. So that's always important for us to remember. Okay, time's up. Let's stop. Okay, questions for me so far, based on what I just shared. I thought it was clear. So next week, I'll talk about the remaining portions of pre-group stage, and then I'll move on to talk about initial review. So I'll do that next week. Right. Okay. No questions. Have a good week ahead. My friends, the numbers are soaring, for COVID. So take good care of yourselves. I'll see you guys back next week for our 7th lecture together. Thank you so much.
Good night, Lawrence.
Thanks, Lawrence. Good night.